One of my all-time favorite coffee shops in the Twin Cities here had these words on a part of their wall. I think it was left over from an art installation, but remained up for years afterwards. And the words were, "Maybe you're wrong." I just love that, especially because this place for a long time had some of the best coffee in the Twin Cities. It was a place where people could understandably become a little arrogant. But every day you come in and see that sign, "Maybe you're wrong." I think it's a good message, and one that the religious leaders in today's 5-minute devotional obviously did not have that up on their own wall. So we're in John chapter 9, verses 35 to the end of the chapter. So we are still looking at what happened with this man that was born blind and Jesus healed. And the last thing that happened was that he got kicked out of the synagogue, which is a really tragic thing. So Jesus heard that they had cast him out. Having found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered, "And who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you." He said, "Lord, I believe," and worshipped him. Jesus said, "For judgment I come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said, "Are we also blind?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, 'We see,' your guilt remains." So starting with the man who was born blind. What a roller coaster ride he had. Starting out by Jesus healing him, and he can see for the first time in his whole life, and then things get worse from there. His parents are afraid of the religious authorities. The religious authorities drag him before them a couple of times, and the second time they excommunicate him, they cast him out, he becomes an outcast, and I'm left wondering, is he actually in a worse place than he started at this point? For him, for his life? I mean, he can see now, but now he's an outcast from society. Maybe it was better to be blind in the first place. I don't know. So he's at his lowest point where we find him at the beginning here. But we're not the only ones who find him. We're at his lowest point, and Jesus knows that he's at his lowest point, and Jesus seeks him out. He goes and finds him, and he asks him this all-important question, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" Now that might be an odd phrase for us, the Son of Man, but it wouldn't have been for him. In his culture, in his day, he probably would have been familiar with Old Testament scriptures and with the prophecies and prophecy of Daniel specifically, which talked about one like a son of man coming before the Ancient of Days. Again, language we might not be familiar with, but it was a title of one who was going to rule everything, of the Messiah. So Jesus is basically saying, "Do you believe in the Messiah?" And the simple reply, "Who is he?" And Jesus is like, "You're talking with him." And that's all it took. That's all it took. At that moment, from everything that he'd been through, he's like, "Lord, I believe," and worshipped him. So that's beautiful. And then Jesus goes on and says, I've come into the world to show what it really is. I'm paraphrasing now. That those who didn't see will be able to see. And he's speaking figuratively now. And those who think they can see, showing them that they actually can't. So back to that idea of maybe you're wrong. The religious leaders did not have that in mind. Maybe they're wrong. I think maybe we should keep that in mind. Maybe we're wrong. What I'm not saying is maybe God's wrong. God's right. And you can trust what God says, and you can trust what Jesus says. But we have ideas, don't we? That we like to cling to. And if those ever conflict or get in the way of us thinking about something that God might be doing or might be saying, that can be hard. And the problem that these religious leaders had was they weren't willing to let go of their ideas, to let God show them something about himself, which is very important, who the Son of Man is. So just remember, not that maybe God's wrong, but maybe you're wrong. And that could be a really freeing thing.